All right, bro. So look, for everybody out there who hates going to high school, hates school, look, I've been there. I don't like school at all. Like, you feel me? I fucking hated it, bro. Like, I didn't even go to school. There's other things I'd rather do. I'd rather play sports, you know what I mean? Go outside, do martial arts, do parkour. Like, I like doing make music. Just I like to do a lot of creative stuff that, they didn't have at school. I just felt really controlled and put in a box when I was at school. So, school wasn't really for me. But, I got a lot of scrutiny from my family for not going to school. They used to talk shit like, oh, you're a dumbass, you don't go to school, what I mean? Like this and that. And, like, I was like kind of regretting that I didn't go to school because, when I turned 18, I wanted to join the military, and I wasn't really good at math because I wasn't staying in school. So I took the test, to ASVAB to get in, and I didn't pass. And on top of that, I told the recruiter that I didn't have a diploma. So they were like, oh, you need a diploma, but if you get score high enough on the ASVAB, we could see what we could do for you. And I didn't score that high because I wasn't going to school, but I was physically fit. You know what I mean? Like I would have passed, boot camp, no problem. Like I was physically fit. Like, you know what I mean? My body was healthy. I was strong, but I didn't have the academics. You know what I mean? The math. My reading comprehension was pretty good, but it felt like it was the math that got me. And yeah. But you should get your diploma, just I guess make yourself proud. You know what I mean? Don't always say, well, I want to get it because my parents make me get it. Like maybe you should do it for yourself, because having a diploma is just like a personal pride, I guess, because I have a kid and I want my kid to have a diploma in high school. I don't want my kid to drop out of high school. I dropped out, so I had to go to adult school, and I did get my diploma at adult school. I can show you guys right now. Right here. This is my diploma that I got at adult school. And it wasn't easy, I was too busy, working, and I had a kid, so I was just really occupied and I couldn't really focus on school like that. But, I decided, to make a way, and to get my diploma so, I could at least set that example for my daughter that, you should get a diploma just for your personal pride so people can't, talk shit to you and say you're dumb. Like, at least you have a high school diploma, And I have thought about going to college, but, I don't like school, you know what I mean? Like, most of the most successful people, they drop out of school, Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of school, the dude that runs Facebook and stuff like that. Like, he dropped out of school, you know what I mean? Like, professional athletes like Floyd Mayweather, like, bro couldn't even really read that good. Like, his reading comprehension was, like, super low. Like, he couldn't read that good, Like, but he's an awesome boxer, you know what I mean? He makes a lot of money. Like, just because you're not, good at school doesn't mean you're not going to be successful. But, having a diploma, people can't really insult your intelligence the same way. You know what I mean? And just because you have a diploma doesn't mean you're smart either. But anyway, I'll show you guys some more proof, that, I struggled in school. If you see this right here, you can see the F's, And, I really didn't like school. I struggled at it. But, I got my diploma, and I got it when I was I would say about 23, I wish I would have got it at 18. But, I didn't go to school, but I learned a lot of other stuff that you can't learn, in school. I got the knowledge that you can't learn in college. You know what I mean? I learned a lot of stuff from life, that, a lot of other people don't understand that I understand, so I got my education elsewhere, you know what I mean? I'm educated in other things besides school. But yeah, you know, just at least get that high school diploma at the very least. You know what I mean? And if you don't want to do it, that's fine too. But, my recommendation, my opinion, I feel like you should get a high school diploma. That's just the bare minimum in my opinion. But you can be successful without it. You could be an entrepreneur, a pro athlete, a musician, you know what I mean? An inventor. You know what I mean? There's plenty of smart people that never graduated high school or college and got millions of dollars. You know what I mean? Probably they got a billionaire that never went to high school. So, just because you don't like school and you're not good at school doesn't mean you're a failure and doesn't mean you're not smart. It just means you're different. You know what I mean? And I feel like, God made me different. You know what I mean? He made me, in my opinion, he made me special. He didn't make me the same as everybody else. You know what I mean? I didn't really follow the crowd, I kind of was doing my own thing. That's just what it gets down to, it's being an individual, think for yourself. Don't let other people think for you. In school, they don't teach you how to be the boss or have control over your own life. They teach you how to be a servant and how to work for another person. You know what I mean? School wants to teach people how to be a worker, not a thinker. You think for yourself. If you really become, self-aware and your consciousness goes to another level, you're going to realize that you don't want to work for nobody. You want to work for yourself. You know what I mean? So, you get to that point where you want to become financially free, and school doesn't teach you how to become financially free. It teaches you how to work and do a 9-to-5. And, the rat race, 9-to-5 is just a modern day form of slavery, People just, they give up on their dreams and aspirations just so they can make some boss feel happy, and make somebody else rich while you waste all your time working for them instead of building your dreams and making your dreams come true. So, just make sure that, you tap into your purpose, you know what I mean? Focus on you, you know what I mean? Block out the noise. And, if you want to be successful as bad as you want to breathe, you will be successful with or without a diploma. But, I do stress it, bro. Like, if you're young, just make sure you get that diploma, just bare minimum, even if you don't use it. At least you'll be doing that for yourself, But anyway, this Willie signing out. Y'all have a good one. Peace out.